What's up everyone, it's Brad with the Hodlor fandom. It's been a while since we touched on the comic side of things, and I considered doing a video highlighting a few of my favorite speculative comic buys. Now those would be issues outside of the top 15 in total market cap that have really big long-term upside. Now instead of just presenting a list to you guys, I thought it would be a lot more fun and maybe controversial to have them fight it out. So today we're doing Veve Versus episode number 3 with 2 more recent releases on the platform. Marvel Spotlight issue number 5 with the first appearance of the Spirit of Vengeance versus a comic that has maybe the most first appearances since Giant Size X-Men number 1. And it's a comic I'm really excited about in the physical world. That's Strange Academy issue number 1. This is a tough one because I really like them both, but let's get into it. Kind of refreshing going back to the comics, which was the core of my channel and still remains a very big part of it. Now, I don't say this a lot, but I really hope you stick around for the whole video, listen to the analysis, and definitely for the explanation in the end, because these are both gems for different reasons. And both can have different appeals to different people depending on what kind of investor you are. So it's important to get all the information to make that decision for yourself, and I'll be giving that to you as best I can. I get into the details of these comics because, especially in the case of Strange Academy, it's important to actually read the comics to understand where it could be headed because it's such a new series. You can buy a bookshelf, but you're not an expert if you actually haven't read your books. One last thing I want to point out, these are more of the speculative comics. If you ask me about my favorite no-brainer big cap buy, that would be Fantastic Four number 1. I did a video on that months ago, and all the points are still relevant. So if you want to know my reasoning for that, I'll link it down below. Let's first very quickly go over the background of each comic, and let's start with Marvel Spotlight number 5. I was very careful with my wording in the intro not to say the first appearance of Ghost Rider, because technically the first Ghost Rider was a 19th century horse riding character named Carter Slade, and he called himself the Ghost Rider. Marvel relaunched the Ghost Rider that we know today, and then renamed Carter Slade's character to the Phantom Rider. This new Ghost Rider would be possessed by the Spirit of Vengeance. The first person to do this was Johnny Blaze. Not that Johnny Blaze, this Johnny Blaze. After his adoptive father Crash Simpson got a terminal cancer diagnosis with just 1 month to live, Johnny Blaze summons the devil, also known as Mephisto, to make a deal. He sells his soul to the devil and agrees to serve him faithfully all throughout eternity if he makes sure Crash doesn't die of cancer. The thing is, Crash Simpson dies shortly thereafter in a stunt accident, not cancer. So Mephisto kind of found a loophole to screw over Johnny Blaze. So Mephisto collects his side of the deal and curses Johnny Blaze with the Spirit of Vengeance to collect souls for him, souls on Earth. There would be a ton of characters who would hold the mantle of Ghost Rider. There are way too many to mention here, but I'll go over a few of them. There's Denny Ketch, who would hold the mantle after Johnny Blaze. And if you grew up in the 90s like myself, this is who you probably knew first as Ghost Rider. More recently, we had Robbie Reyes from the all-new, all-different era in Marvel, and then the Punisher very recently took over the mantle as Cosmic Ghost Rider. And we have that first appearance already on Veve as an NFT. Now let's very quickly go over Strange Academy. Now, this series is so new, it's not even done yet. This is the first of an 18-issue storyline, and issue number 18 gets released next month in April. It's the only comic on Veve that still hasn't concluded its first story arc. On Marvel Unlimited, I only have issues number 1 to 14, and as I read the series, especially after number 14, man, let me tell you, I got really bullish on this because we get glimpses of where these characters can go. So Doctor Strange, he basically assembles a group of extraordinary kids with powers of the magical variety to help them hone their skills. He's also assembled a powerful teaching staff, including Dr. Voodoo, the Ancient One, Agatha Harkness, the Scarlet Witch, Illyana Rasputin, and Hellstrom, just to name a few. The 11 first appearances in this comic in issue number 1 are all students. We have Emily Bright, and even though her parents are normal humans, she seems to be the most talented in that she's usually the first to be able to do all the spells compared to her classmates, and even resurrects the dead, which even shocks Doctor Strange. Doyle Dormammu is the son of Dormammu. Eric and Alvi are brothers. Their father is an Asgardian guard, while their mother is a powerful enchantress named Amora. Desi is a demon and daughter of a powerful demon named Sim. Zoe comes from a long line of voodoo witches and is able to resurrect the dead. That kind of reminds me of that Warcraft 3 Necromancer. I love that game. So far, these characters have some really great potential. I mean, there's a prophecy which hints on their future, and we get a glimpse of that in issue number 14, but more on that when I talk about the X factors in this matchup. Now we round up the rest of the first appearances with Shay Lee, who is a fairy, Toth, who is from Weird World and has powers similar to Iceman, Gooselog, who is a frost giant, Herman, who can do animal projections, and Calvin, who ended up losing his powers. So these are like the bench players of the team. So key takeaways: 11 first appearances, and a bunch of these characters come from very, very powerful bloodlines. The exception is Emily Bright. Her parents seem to be normal humans, but she is showing to be the most adept at using magic so far. And this is a school of gifted youngsters being brought together, so it kind of has this feel of a cross between Hogwarts and X-Men issue number 1. Alright, let's talk about market cap and the real world value. Marvel Spotlight number 5 is currently sitting at the number 16 spot in total market cap. If we also pull in this sales price, we could see a 9.6 graded comic sells for $74,000. One thing to note about its price, it's higher than most people expect, partially due to the scarcity of the physical. It could easily be in the top 10 if the price of the physical is a reflection of its market cap on Veve. So that says it's undervalued to me, as once the comic crowd continues to join Veve, the additional demand to get this comic, which is largely not within reach for the normal collector, that should drive up the price. For Strange Academy number 1, it's sitting at the number 29 spot, and a 9.6 sells for $160. Some people might say immediately, this is going to lose its comparison because it's so cheap. Not so fast. Time is one very big thing that makes these physicals appreciate in price. Now, Strange Academy, again, is the only comic series on Veve yet to finish its first series. So that almost makes the price irrelevant, and it makes me want to look at things like significance, supply, demand, and so forth to get a projection of what that price could be. But let's pull up all the comics in the top 35 market cap on Veve that were released this century. There are only 3 first appearances in that top 35. Ultimate Fallout number 4, Strange Academy number 1, and Hitmonkey number 1. It's virtually tied with Hitmonkey, and I'm sorry Hitmonkey fans, those two are not in the same league. Now when Hitmonkey was released, I did buy the uncommon and the rare, because at that time it was standing on a number of pillars for potential success. The market caps were severely undervalued compared to other non-first appearances. There was an upcoming show on Hulu, and there was a chance that it could become a hit and grow in popularity, especially since there have been Marvel tie-ins in the past in the comics. Since then, the show was rumored to be cancelled after an unsuccessful first season. There were no Marvel tie-ins, it did not gain any material amount of popularity, and the character doesn't seem to be developing any significance in the world or universe of comics. That leaves it standing on only one more pillar, of it being a first appearance. So luckily for me, I sold the rare for profit. It should not be valued the same as a comic that has 11 first appearances, whose demand for the comic was so high, Marvel made 5 prints of the first issue. 5. Not 5 variant covers, 5 prints of issue number 1. They printed so many because people loved it. Of course, the first print of those 5 will always remain the most valuable. But also being someone that actually reads the comics, I'll tell you, these characters, to me at least, are being developed to be quite significant in Marvel Comics. Should it be as high as the other first appearance with Ultimate Fallout number 4? That's tough to say. Miles Morales is extremely popular. However, he has over a decade of very good storytelling to help him build him up. And again, Strange Academy is only in its rookie season. What I will say here is I believe these characters have a good chance to be very relatable and very significant in the future. Relatable because of, let's just say, I see Marvel using a very successful and reliable formula that they've used with very popular characters in the past. And I think they're going to be very powerful. But more on that when I discuss X factors in just a little bit. So I think both are undervalued for where they are sitting relative to the others around it on Veve. They should be higher. I'm going with a tie here. Regarding future catalysts, to pull in the mainstream audience, I think this section will be quick. Ghost Rider has had a movie. I think he showed up in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series. I never watched that show, but I'm pretty sure he did. And there are rumors he will make his MCU debut sooner than later. On the other side, Strange Academy, they need more buildup of their characters and development of their characters in the comics before they can be pulled in to the mainstream audience. And there's no plans to bring them in. So Marvel Spotlight number 5 definitely gets the edge here. Let's talk X Factors. For Ghost Rider, he's a pretty badass character. A guy riding a motorcycle with a flaming skull cursed by the devil. He's also a character that has infinite longevity, as the spirit of vengeance can be passed to anybody. His powers are pretty cool too. He has this thing called the penance stare that makes people feel all the pain and suffering that they've inflicted on others. On the other side, in issue number 3 of Strange Academy, Doyle Dormammu gets a glimpse of his future in a prophecy, and he sees that he will destroy the Strange Academy. In issue number 14, we get a look at that future and a bit of an elaboration on that prophecy. Emily Bright and her side of the group have defeated Dormammu. Doyle claims he has grown much more powerful than his father Dormammu. The prophecy also said one of the students would destroy the old ways of magic, that's likely Doyle, and reign over a new era of evil. And one of the students would be there to oppose him. For those who don't know, Dormammu is incredibly powerful in the comics, maybe one of the most powerful entities out there. For those only familiar with the cinematic universe, I can confidently say that Dormammu is the most powerful comic character that they have ever showed on screen. He wasn't beaten by Doctor Strange, he made a bargain. So to say that these kids ended up defeating Dormammu and his son being more powerful than him, while also creating a new era of evil, that's a pretty massive statement. So Scotty Young is saying these characters will play a big role in the future of Marvel Comics. That's at least how I see it. The next thing with regards to what I touched on earlier about relatability and the Marvel formula, look at Peter Parker, Miles Morales, the Fantastic Four, and even the X-Men. In the early days, as part of their early success, was making them relatable to their younger audience. So Stan Lee, he said when he made Peter Parker, he purposely made him a normal kid to have problems and to learn from those problems. And that made him relatable. He said the same thing about the Fantastic Four. He wanted to create a family setting so people could relate to the same family dynamic. So this is the formula. Younger characters going through similar things as the younger audience, not being perfect and learning from those mistakes. That made them relatable to the audience. Same thing with Miles Morales and the X-Men, who ended up being very successful as well. Now I can say with these kids at the Strange Academy, all are going through the same thing kids do. You know, dealing with your first crush, first kiss, drama with other kids, and just a ton of teenage stuff. Younger fans can relate to that, and that's how you build a generation of fans. So when it comes to X Factors, to me, Strange Academy, they take it. So when we add it all up, this was a very close one for different reasons, but I have the winner as Marvel Spotlight number 5. Now the tipping point for me was that Marvel Spotlight number 5 had the edge when it came to evaluating the comic as it is, not what I think they might be. You know, I also chose Marvel Spotlight number 5 because I think it would be the most likely to appreciate in price sooner than later. But, and this is a big but, if you're buying with a timeline of several years, waiting until the comics build up these characters and stories, then you really can be looking at the next modern age key. I do believe it has that big a potential. So for those who prefer a longer time frame, who like to take home run swings, and are able to buy and forget about it, Strange Academy wins for you. It's like in sports. You could sign a veteran all-star where you know what you're going to get, or go with a player out of high school who might be a generational talent. The risk here is that the younger player doesn't develop into that, and the risk is that Strange Academy doesn't get the writing to develop these characters. But there are so many pillars for success here that this comic stands on. I think it'll just take quite a bit more time. So what's my buying strategy? I'm slowly buying both, but I'm in no rush. As I mentioned in past videos, in my market cycles video and in my interpretation of the last community update, I think there's going to be a bit of a lull in the market or stagnation in the market for a little bit. So when I come across, or when I have extra gems, or I come across a very low priced one, I'll grab one. Full disclosure, I don't have a lot of either, and I only have 2 physicals of Strange Academy number 1, a raw copy and a 9.6. So I'm buying and I'm forgetting about it, because my investment horizon is long term. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks so much for watching. Please consider liking, subscribing, and following, and I'll see you in the next video.